and then there's Bad News Barrett. And how did that come about? Because it seemed like there's a lot of guys who are there for years, and it just seems they kind of end up coasting on this certain level. But when Bad News Barrett came around, it seemed like all of a sudden people were really getting behind you again. How creatively were you involved with Bad News Barrett, and what led to that character coming in?
Well, I know Cody Rhodes has been here before with Inside the Ropes. Did he do Manchester?
He didn't do London, he did Manchester.
Okay, he did Manchester, not London. Well, Cody Rhodes is a very good friend of mine. He's also the biggest liar I know. He lies non-stop in a good way. He's very funny with it, but he is a liar. And one day I walked into the locker room and he was telling a story to a bunch of the guys in there that he used to watch me on TV when he was a kid. Now, admittedly, I am older than Cody by about 5 years. So he definitely wasn't watching me as a kid on TV. And he tells his story how it was black and white and I was all grumpy and miserable, and the main event was about to happen on this regional kind of Southern American wrestling show that he was watching as a kid, and he was all excited for the main event, whoever it was. And suddenly I walked out and said, "Guys, I've got some bad news. The main event is canceled." And then I just got out the ring, walked to the back, and the show ended. And he said it was the worst ending to a wrestling show ever, and that was his first introduction to me. Obviously complete nonsense, but this story kind of took on a life of its own. And Cody had started doing something with the WWE.com guys, and again, this was, I think, just prior to the network getting launched, and they were investing a lot of money and a lot of time, at least, in WWE.com and getting hits on YouTube and making money through that network. And Cody was doing something on there called the JBL and Cole Show, along with JBL and Michael Cole. And it was a very quirky show with a lot of nonsense. And the guys who were running that show came up to me and said, "Hey, Wade, we'd really like to use you on the show." And I was kind of not doing much on the main TV show at that point. So I was like, "Cool, okay, I'm down for that. What do you want to do?" And they were like, "Well, we don't actually have an idea. We were hoping you would come up with something." And I was like, "Oh, come on, guys, you come to me to say you want me on the show and you don't have any ideas?" I was like, "You know what? Cody's on there, right? Make me Bad News Barrett. All I want to do is come in and give bad news." And they're like, "That's kind of weird." I was like, "That's all I'm going to do on your show. If you want me, that's what we're doing." And then I walked off. So the next week, there was a segment where Cody had stolen JBL's hat, and he'd put the hat on, and then he realized it'd been super glued, so it was super glued to his head, and he was trying to get people to take it off, and then he finally came to me, and I said, "Cody, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. This hat isn't coming off." And that was the start of Bad News Barrett. And they put up a stamp that said, "I'm afraid I've got some bad news." So that was cool. I thought, okay, I'll probably do that for a couple of weeks and then we'll never hear from it again. Well, they put this episode on YouTube, and 90% of the comments afterwards were, "Oh my God, I love Bad News Barrett. BNB, oh, whoa, Bad News Barrett. I'm afraid I got some bad news." All the comments were coming up about Bad News Barrett. So we've got to put him back on next week as Bad News Barrett. What else are we going to do? So there was, we'd come up with these more and more ridiculous situations where I would just turn up at the end, give bad news, there would be a stamp that comes up, and that's it. And somehow it got a life of its own where there became like a Bad News Barrett fan club. I was like, I've never done anything easier than this in my whole life. This is so inane and nonsensical, but people are loving it. And every week, all the comments were, "We want more bad news, we want more bad news." And JBL, who is very close with Vince, he flies on the private jet with him, and he sits in all the production meetings and stuff like that. JBL loves this show, and he's showing it off to Vince in a meeting. And Vince has never seen the JBL and Cole show before, but JBL is shoving it down his throat. "Hey, watch this bit, watch it. Oh, we got this guy, Bad News Barrett." And Vince said, "What? We got a guy, Bad News Barrett. It's Wade Barrett. He's Bad News Barrett." He's, say it again. What's his name? His name is Bad News Barrett. I love it. Anyway, then he goes into his meeting, and they start talking about Raw, and they're going through the script, and, match 3 is going to be this and this. Hey, wait. Hey, JBL, what's Barrett's name again? It's Bad News Barrett. So now Vince is just he doesn't know anything about it. He just loves the sound of Bad News Barrett. And then suddenly, JBL came out of the meeting and said, "Hey, Wade, you're not Wade Barrett anymore. You're Bad News Barrett now, and you're going to be on the show as Bad News Barrett." I was like, "What?" It doesn't really work on Raw. It kind of works on this ridiculous internet show that we have, but it doesn't work in real life. I can't do that. I was like, well, Vince loves it, so you better figure it out. So I go and speak to Vince about that. He goes, I know people who love giving out bad news, who relish it, and I can just tell you really love it. So from now on, you're going to go out there and you're going to give out bad news. And he was so proud of this, and I was like, wow. So he wrote me this promo, and it was like, okay, on Raw tonight, you're going to go down there. We're going to have a little podium next to Michael Cole where he's doing his announcing. We want you to stand there in a suit or something and just give out bad news. So it's like, man, this is rotten. No one's going to like this. But it's Vince, so I'm not going to tell him that, so I go and do it. So I go down to the ring, and I stand at this podium. The whole arena goes quiet. The camera's on me, and I read out this prepared statement of bad news. Zero reaction. And it's so quiet in this huge arena, there's 10 or 15,000 people in there, that I hear a guy 3 seats away just yell, "Are we supposed to be laughing at this?" And then I just left, and that was the end of my segment. And it was, a humiliating moment. So I got at the back, and wow, that was bad. And I saw Regal in the back, and he had the look of death. He said, "I don't envy you that one." So, oh God, this ain't good. So I go to speak to Vince, and I say, "Vince, we need to jazz this up a bit." He said, yeah. Have a thing, get back to me. So I had a thing. It was like, I really want to gavel. It's really annoying when people in I think it's in Parliament in the UK. I think they order. I think they're hitting a gavel, or at least in my head they are. So that's where that came from. So I said, I want to use a gavel. I want to bang it when the crowd are making noise. Not that they were making noise, but I was going to bang the gavel. And I told it to Vince, yeah, give it a try. So we tried that, and I'm still stood next to Michael Cole, and it still wasn't quite there. So then I went home that week, and I was trying to think of new things I could do. I was like, wow, how can I make this work? And I saw an old entrance of The Brood. And I take it people in here probably remember The Brood. If they don't, it was back in the kind of late 90s. It had Gangrel, Edge, and Christian. They were 3 vampires. And they used to do an entrance where they would come up through the stage in a ring of fire. There's vampires, and then they would walk over the ring of fire and walk down to the ring and do their match or whatever. And so I thought, what would be really cool? I kind of felt like an Austin Powers kind of thing where, what's the bad guy in Austin Powers, the bald guy? Dr. Evil and Mini-Me and all that. At one point, he comes up on a wheelchair or something like that, and he's on this thing. So I wanted to do this thing where I would come up through the stage on my podium, gavel, give my bad news, laugh, and then disappear under the stage again. I thought, this is so ridiculous. I've got to amp it up more. Let me be like Dr. Evil kind of thing. What do you think about that, Vince? And he goes, I hope you're not afraid of heights. And that was it. So I didn't know what he meant. I went away. A week later, there it is, the giant scissor lift, which was, 40 or 50 feet high. And what people don't understand about those scissor lifts is from the vantage point of TV, they look great. They are not designed to be extended all the way. And when you're up there, they're wobbling more than this seat, which, in all honesty, I'm a little scared about this seat. So I'm not going to wobble anymore. But, those things are wobbly, and I'm trying to concentrate on my promo and kind of hold it together. And this thing's wobbling all over the place. And I started getting tweets from some health and safety organization in the US. And technically, if you're on one of those things in the US, you are supposed to be attached to some sort of harness that is linked to the roof. And somehow we managed to avoid harnessing me up. But the fact that, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. I don't know. It's kind of something that made me a little nervous. But anyway, that podium is what really helped that character become a spectacle. It went from being just a guy talking and giving out this nonsense bad news to, hey, there's that guy with the podium. Oh, it's coming up, and they're playing music as I'm going up. And it went from being, okay, now that's showbiz. And that's what, in wrestling, is sometimes neglected and we kind of bypass. And sometimes something like that, a spectacle, showbiz spectacle, and that's what works. And that made Bad News Barrett right there and then once I got my extended podium.
And one of the big moments from Bad News Barrett was never televised. I think it was April 2015. They did the Raw from the UK. And there was a video that kind of went viral on YouTube, which was after Raw went off the air, you bullhammered Triple H. And people were loving it. Was that a moment where you kind of thought, well, maybe they're going to do something with me? Maybe I'm going to become a bigger name in the show because they were having you do this dark segment with Triple H?
No, not at all. What actually happened there? So it was really weird. Whenever I went around anywhere in the world, I was booed. I was always the bad guy. I liked being the bad guy. whenever I came to the UK, everyone would cheer because he's the local guy or whatever it was. We get that, I want to support the British guy. It's great to see him beating up the Americans, whatever it was. So it was always kind of bizarro world whenever I came home. But this particular one, we did the show. I can't remember what I did in my match, but had my match, went to the back, and I think I was getting ready to leave or getting ready to shower or whatever it was. And the end of the show is coming up, and suddenly I'm told, Vince wants you at Gorilla. So I run up to Gorilla. What do you need, Vince? I want you to go out after the show and, just thank the crowd and say bye to everyone. Cool, no problem. So I kind of quickly in my head, in the 2 minutes I've got before I go out, I put a little speech together thanking the crowd. What a great support they've always shown me, how British wrestlers are the best. And British people, I wanted to be the first ever WWE champion and from the UK, and I was promising that one day I will do it. What a broken promise that would have been. That was the plan. But anyway, halfway into this speech, I suddenly hear Adam Rose's music hit. And I'm like, Vince, what? And Adam Rose was this new debuting gimmick. And I don't know if people remember him, he was kind of supposed to be the Aldous Snow character from Get Him to the Greek. Is it Aldous Snow, is that the name? Yeah, so he's supposed to be based on that. Now, Adam Rose, real name Ray Lapan, he's from South Africa. He was putting on a terrible English accent. Now, for some reason, I think Vince genuinely thought he was English. I don't think he realized, no, this is a South African guy putting on a fake English accent very badly. So hey, Adam Rose comes down. I think in Vince's head, this was, I'll send the 2 Brits down. What's better than 1 Brit in the ring saying bye, 2 Brits? So Adam Rose comes down. At this point, I don't know where this is going. And Adam Rose is like sucking a lollipop and dancing around me. I was like, how on earth does this work? And suddenly Triple H's music hits. I'm like, what is going on? I don't know where we're going here at all. So Triple H comes down to the ring and he starts cutting a promo and he's saying how bad British wrestlers are and how you'll never make it to the top. He was right. And, well, you need to get out of this ring, this, that, and the other. And then at this point, I knew, okay, I'm the babyface here. He's the heel. Everyone's booing him. I'm just going to hit him. The second he steps through the ropes, I'm just going to hit him with the bull hammer. So, bang, hit him with the bull hammer, knocked him out. Everyone's cheering. I go home. Adam Rose is still dancing in the ring for some reason. No idea what he was doing out there to this day. And that was it. So it really wasn't wow, this is my chance to, I'm now being put on a level with Triple H. It wasn't. It was a non-televised thing that was just silly, and it was just to give the fans something different. I think it was just Vince messing with us and seeing how we reacted. So, sometimes when the cameras are off, strange things like that happen. And I remember in 1999, in May 1999, I went to a show in Manchester, and I was just a fan at the time, and I was sat in the crowd. Skinny Stu was sat there, 17 years old or something like that, and I'm watching the show. I'm in the second row, and really excited. I'm a big wrestling fan, and all my favorites are on there, and Triple H ends up coming out for the main event, and I think he's wrestling Stone Cold and The Undertaker in like a triple threat or something like that. And at the end of the show, Stone Cold wins, Undertaker leaves, Stone Cold leaves, Triple H is just knocked out in the ring, and all of a sudden he goes over to a guy in the front row who's got a pair of plastic tits on, and pulls these off and just puts them on his head and walks to the back. I'm like, that's the kind of thing that Triple H does at the end of the show when the camera's off. So yeah, when he was walking out at the end of Raw and coming into this segment, I really didn't quite know what to expect. But that's the kind of Triple H thing of how to say goodbye, I suppose. So I don't know.
What an image to leave us with, Triple H. Why do you think Bad News Barrett ultimately didn't pan out? What was the reason? Because obviously, there's people in here with the shirts on. People still talk about it. It seemed like it was destined to be a big gimmick for you. Why did it ultimately not go as far as you would like to?
So like I said, in my entire career, certainly with WWE, I was always the bad guy. And I was always very happy being the bad guy. There was a moment that for sure I should have been turned into a babyface. Not that I was particularly wanting to be this happy-go-lucky babyface or anything like that. It's just not my personality. But the crowd was so behind Bad News Barrett, and they wanted me to be the good guy, and they wanted to cheer me, that we're like, okay, we're going to have to turn it, and we can work this out. Sheamus is someone who should never really be a babyface, but he's had runs as a babyface before, and sometimes you just have to play with whatever the crowd is giving you. It's okay, cool. If that's what they want, that's what I'm happy to give them. So I spoke to Vince about it and said, hey, it's I think it's time to turn me babyface. I think that's what they're wanting, and he says, let me think about it. Week later, he apparently said in the meeting that week with the creative team, Barrett will never be a babyface. He's not a babyface. He's a heel for life. He'll always be a heel. So the problem was, every time I would say the Bad News catchphrase, everyone would cheer along. That's what they wanted to see. So how do we make that guy a heel again? The only way we can make him a heel again is to stop him saying the bad news. So he told me, hey, here's what I want from you. I want you to still be Bad News Barrett, but you can't say the catchphrase anymore. So the problem with that is if you're Bad News Barrett and you're not saying the catchphrase, then you're not really Bad News Barrett. The whole thing about Bad News Barrett is he's just a regular wrestler, but he comes out and says catchphrase and gives people bad news, and that's what people want. So the moment that's taken away, then you're just a generic guy in the ring. So I explained that to Vince. Here's my thoughts. I don't agree with you. No, it'll be fine. No problem. Just go out and do that. So at that point, the catchphrase was taken away. I was still Bad News Barrett, but not giving out the bad news. And over the period of 2 or 3 months, people cotton on to the fact that, okay, this guy isn't entertaining anymore because the thing that was entertaining about him isn't happening. So at that point, it was kind of dead in the water, and I felt myself literally week by week slipping lower and lower on the card.